What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of services? Booking a cab, ordering food online, making payments on your phone? Exactly. Services are all around us. Banking, healthcare, travel, food delivery, entertainment, you name it. It is no surprise that services sector is also India's largest contributor to GDP, making up about 55% of the GDP in financial year 2025 as per the PIB report. Today we are going to talk about why this sector is not just essential to our daily lives but also a potentially powerful investment opportunity. And joining us in this episode is Mr. Sachin Relekar, Senior Fund Manager at Axis Mutual Fund. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Axis Moneynomics. This is Divya Menon from Axis Mutual Fund. Hello Sachin, welcome.
Hey Divya, thanks for having me here.
Well, Sachin, services seem to be quietly powering India's growth. Can you help our listeners understand the big picture here?
Absolutely, Divya. The services sector in India is like a giant or silent engine humming in the background. It already contributes more than half of our GDP. And as per the report by Ben and Company and NASCOM, it is expected to grow to 60% by 2047.
That's impressive. It would be interesting to know how has this translated into the stock market segment.
So the NSE Service Sector Index has outperformed Nifty Index, which is a more diversified index, by delivering 13% CAGR return versus 11%, which is of a Nifty CAGR return. That is from April 2010 to almost as of now, which is almost 15-year trajectory, which is there. If you see actually the 2% CAGR on a 15-year basis, the difference can make a lot of difference to the outcome. More importantly, the services sector is no longer just about banking and IT today. It includes more emerging sectors like e-commerce, fintech, telecom, hospitals, media, insurance, and even quick commerce. So, and the list is expanding, by the way. So that offers a very wide diversification within the theme. So, and likewise, we said 15-year CAGR difference is just about 2%, which is quite healthy and meaningful on a 15-year basis. But I think this gap, because services are driving this entire share of the economy, etc. I think the gap has a potential to inch up further.
So, what you're saying is that the services sector is growing fast, is central to the economy, and is also very widely diversified. Now, let's get to the point. Is services a strong investment opportunity?
Absolutely. Let me break it down for you. Um, there are four key factors that make services as a very strong, compelling investment opportunity. First, there's a diversification. Sector covers everything from IT, banking to retail, healthcare, entertainment, telecom, media. I mean, the list is growing. This gives investors exposure to multiple growth engines within one theme. Second, current dynamics makes the quality of the business in service sector also very compelling and appealing. Now that is clearly reflected in the strong capital efficiency in each of these segments, which is ROE, ROCs are well above the cost of capital. And third is there is a policy support strong. I mean, there is a clear emphasis on the or impetus towards the growth. And that's why we had seen in this year the steps taken by the central bank also, which are very tilted towards the growth bias. And then there is a Make in India that will benefit renewable power, tourism, infrastructure projects. Financialization is a big theme for a lot of services there. There's an emphasis on healthcare insurance through Ayushman Bharat kind of schemes which are there. So it will benefit a lot of areas. Then finally, I'll just give more structural drivers behind this also. And there are two mega drivers which are there in the economy, and they are some kind of playing out for last decade or so. The first one is the formalization. You had seen we had seen economy going through GST implementation. There was a corporate tax cut, rate got cut to 25%. And then we also have a brief period of demonetization. Now, this actually three, four events which are very important from domestic economic point of view has led to higher share gain for formal sector or organized businesses. And this is something which is happening at a certain gradual speed in each of the segments wherever the formalization started taking hold. This also led not only to the market share gain, but there is also a profitability improvement in the businesses which are formal. Then the other thing which has actually started to gain more and more traction is technology. It was always been prevalent there, but COVID was an event where a lot of consumer adopted to that trend as a part of necessity. But eventually, a lot of habits actually changed with that. Also, certain business models got actually created around that. That led to a disruptive changes in certain businesses. At the same time, it also led to a lot of innovation around that. And this, I believe, both these trends of formalization and technology are actually combined together are leading to two effects or two, three important effects, which are very important from the wealth creation point of view. First is it is enhancing the reach for each of the businesses. It is actually enhancing the market opportunity for all these businesses which are led by technology. And second is it is also bringing in the operating efficiencies or operating leverage into the businesses, because they being platform, the costs are more in the nature of capital cost, while the operating costs, the variabilized costs are much lower, and as the businesses grow the profitability also improves. I believe the trend, what was there in 2020 versus what the trend, the strength of that in 2025 is, of course, far higher and far better. But going forward, these things will actually gain more traction, and you will find both the trends actually driving the wealth creation or the value creation very, very strongly.
This sounds very appealing, Sachin. What are the next big ideas in services, specifically in India?
So, well, there is a lot of potential for services in future also. I think there is a penetration opportunity in each of this sector. Let's take an example of healthcare. We had seen the sector growing very well, and it has still a long opportunity, a big opportunity, a long way to go in terms of the future. We all know like the realization for quality healthcare need is improved a lot. At the same time, if we look at the share of organized healthcare compared to the market opportunity, I think it is still a huge amount of potential which is there. Uh, in fact, we may be at the start of this formalization opportunity in healthcare. Moreover, other important factor which I was emphasizing in the previous comment, which is about technology. The healthcare is also benefiting because of that technology trend. It is actually helping them reach out to more potential customers or patients, etc. It is also helping the healthcare delivery in a more efficient and a cost effective manner. So, so the sector will benefit from these two trends as significantly as other sectors which have been mentioned. Similar is the case for tourism or hospitality per se. The branded room supply in the country is still very less compared to the demand which is there, and we are growing quite healthy in terms of the nominal GDP growth rate, in terms of the air traffic or the passenger traffic in the aviation, etc. So that all will actually result into a huge opportunity for hospitality as well. Then coming to domestic orientation, one more thing which is very disruptive in nature and gaining a lot of attention is the quick commerce. I mean, here the opportunity is large. The retail sector is perhaps the largest sector in the country, but it's also dominated by a lot of mom and pop or unorganized sector. Um, and that is actually the efficiency of that is getting challenged. First is by modern retail, and now it is actually getting challenged, or it's actually getting disrupted somewhat through a quick commerce. And the model is actually growing much faster. There is a profitability argument which can be, made at this point in time, but actually that all the matrices looks to be on the improvement path. So therefore, if one has to look at it from a little longer term point of view, I think all these trends, the sectors, etc., which I mentioned, they will be quite big. And another important sector, which is domestically very large already, which is BFSI. I think the sector which is getting most transformed because of technology, like we had seen in during the COVID, is how the payment system came through, how UPI become very important part of every financial transaction, etc. I think the sector will go through this innovative and productivity enhancing changes quite a lot, and significant wealth creation will also be there in the non-lending businesses. These are just a few examples on the health on the domestic side. There is also an opportunity in services outsourcing, which is about the penetration will grow. At the same time, newer adjacencies will also emerge, and some of the high quality companies or high quality businesses are part of that service export opportunity. They generate very healthy cash flows. The profit to cash flow transform conversion is also very high. So these are some of the very, not only just a growth opportunity, but there are also quite a lot of quality attached to that, and that makes it very very compelling in terms of why one should look at it.
Superb, Sachin. I think you have clearly laid down compelling points for the services sector. It surely is a very broad theme and one built for the future. Now, this brings me to the exciting part. For someone listening in and thinking, how do I get started? We now have an answer. Axis Mutual Fund is launching a new fund that puts the services sector front and center with Axis Services Opportunities Fund. This is a thematic equity fund that aims to tap into the broad and growing services universe. So, Services Access Services Opportunities Fund will seek to invest in companies that are at the forefront of formalization and technology.
Yes, and also this fund allows flexi-cap strategy because there is a broad universe of companies which are available to invest across. So we will invest across large, mid, and small cap names to capture the full potential of the services sector. The focus is on identifying scalable businesses with, of course, the strong fundamentals, um, which is having a very clear competitive advantages, and there is a clear capital efficiency improvement or delta part which we'll look at. So yes, and Divya, this fund will also be actively managed because I think this being a broad thematic, it actually gives a very good opportunity for us to actually do a active management. The NFO opens on 4th of July 2025 and it will close on 18th July 2025.
And with this, we come to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much, Sachin. This has been super insightful.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
For our listeners, if you are looking to tap into one of India's potentially significant long term growth stories, you may consider the Access Services Opportunities Fund. Do note that investors should consult their financial advisors if in doubt about whether the product is suitable for them. And that's a wrap for today. If you found this episode valuable, make sure to follow Axis Moneynomics. Do share this episode with anyone looking to make their investment journey easier. Until next time, this is your host Divya signing off.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.